sister, brother, whatever the case is. So it's important to know where your audience is in your being a #1 bestseller. What category are they looking for you in on Amazon or any other news or book outlet? So I am a social worker. And right now, I am on my way to, it is a little bit after 2 here. So it is 2:30 here, so that makes it 7:30 where you are. Yes. And I am grateful because the sun is shining. It's a beautiful day, and I get to be outside because I also have lupus, and I'm not good in the sunlight. So as much as the clouds are messing with the reception, I am enjoying this beautiful day. But I own Michelle's Visual Imaginations and Lupus 365. And when Miss Joanne talks about what's next, I do have what's next for you. But we'll talk about Monster in Their Eyes, and then I'll tell you what's next.
All right.
Because writing is a passion for me, and it just doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. My life is a continuous story, and now that I've shared, I will keep sharing.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm just going to post in my group.
Okay.
So that the folks in there don't miss out.
All right, that's good. No, they don't want to miss out because we got some good stuff for you.
No, yeah, we got some good stuff. We don't want them to miss out. And the people in my house is distracting me. Can you guys leave, please? Thank you.
The realness of life.
Yeah, can you leave and close the door, please? They're all distracting me, asking me questions, and I can't answer questions at the same time. So thanks again, Michelle. And remember, those who are on Zoom, that you can ask questions. Please share the link with your friends so that we can get as many people as we can to come and hear Michelle speak. So I read Monster in Your Eyes. I mean, I bought Unchain My Legacy when it was first launched that day. I bought it, and you know, sometimes you buy a book and you sit on it and you don't really read it just yet. So when I asked you, oh, did you have a book? You know, and you said, so I went and read that chapter, and I was just like, you have to read it and go read it again. And as I said, I found that there were so many truths in there that you shared so openly and so honestly, and the empathy and the courage and the forgiveness. But I want to ask first, why that title for your chapter?
Because in all honesty, I was not a happy person. I was really a monster, and it took me coming out of being a monster to realize that I was a monster. I was depressed. I was hurting. I was evil. I was really an evil person. And although I thought I was being good, my attitude was just so destroyed. And you know how children tell that story of the monster underneath of their bed and they're scared of the monster? That was me. I was just that evil. And although I developed some very good relationships in my younger days, it wasn't until I got older that I appreciated those relationships. So I was in a place of total destruction.
Yeah.
So when it came to raising my children, I was not their mother. I was that monster. I was always strict. I was always disciplined, because in my thought of protecting them, I was actually smothering them. And it wasn't a pretty look. So when you looked at me and you saw my pretty dimples and my cute eyes, and I was just always smiling, the venom that came out of my mouth was just, oh my gosh, did you just say that to me? And I was very unfeeling. I was very unfeeling. So when I started talking about my children and asking them whether or not it was okay to reveal a part of their truth in my healing, they said yes. And I had to dedicate it to them, because to them, I was a monster. I was an absolute monster. And that's how the title came about, Monster in Their Eyes, because I didn't think I was a monster. Yes. I thought I was a great mom. Yes. But to them, I was a total monster. So
Oh,
that's where the
wow.
title came from.
That's really, and you can say it smiling. I mean, I want to go to the beginning though, because you said in the first couple of paragraphs, you said you defeated your purpose, and that's something your mother told you.
Yeah.
That you defeated your purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, how old were you when you first heard that, and what did that do, or how did that contribute to who you became?
I think at the time, was my son born? I had to think back for a minute. I think I was 23. I was 23, and my mother was cutting up real bad. I mean, she was way out of her element. And my grandmother called me and said, "Can you come get your mom?" And I said, "Okay, here I come." And that was a thing. I was always rescuing my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And the only person I couldn't rescue her from was herself. But I go to my grandmother's house, and of course, you know, I don't disrespect her because I have that, I've been taught respect. But she's coming at me, and she's coming at me hard, and I just look at her, and she looks at me and she says, "Oh my God, you're the ugliest person in the world. You so defeated your purpose." And I just looked at her and said, "What was my purpose?" And she says, "Your purpose, the only reason that you were ever born was to keep me with your dad."
Mm.
Really? That's all I mean to you? Is that why you've been so mean to me my entire life? Because my dad didn't stay? Oh, I think, I'm not even sure if I put it in the book or not, but I went back to my house, to my grandmother's house, and I sat in the bathroom for about, I don't know, 2-3 hours just crying. Just absolutely crying. Because at that particular time, not only did I realize that I had no worth, but then I had no purpose for being. Because my dad didn't stay with my mom. My dad didn't stay with me. My dad didn't do all of the things that my mom thought that I was supposed to make him do. I was crushed. I was absolutely crushed.
That's so much to put on a baby, on a child, that you were going to be the glue that keeps this relationship together. And I think a lot of people subconsciously do that. Like, you know, if we have a child, then the relationship won't unravel. This will keep it together. And then when it doesn't, then the child consciously or subconsciously gets to bear quite a lot of the burden of the relationship ending. And
the thing is, that child doesn't even know it.
No.
They don't even know that they carry that weight.
No. But she released you that day because you said that hearing her say those words freed you from the mental anguish of knowing that "I love you" would never come from her lips.
Yep.
So, I mean, that day must have been a day of grief, because while you knew how she felt, now that she'd said it, she'd spoken it, you also know that this other thing that I need from her, I'm never ever going to get it.
Yep. At the time, I really thought that, I know within myself, my mother will never say "I love you." Yeah. She will never say, because she doesn't know me. She doesn't know who I am. I was always, at the time, an inanimate object to her. I was a thing. I was a possession. I was not her daughter. I was not her child. So she didn't express love to me. So to say, "Oh, I love you. Oh, you're so sweet." Nope. And when people say that your innermost feelings come out with the alcohol, I was like, wow, okay. But then I didn't have to worry about it anymore, because everything that I did up until that point was to get my mom to love me.
Yes.
To have my mother love me. I did dance. I did basketball. I sang. I twirled. I sat in my pretty little dress. I learned. I did all of those things to get my mom to love me. And at that particular moment, I realized that my mother does not love me. So yes, I grieved because I knew I would never get it, but I was also free from the anguish of wondering if I ever would.
Right. So it answered some questions for you today. And I wonder how that might free somebody today who really needed to know that they can be free from the longing of wanting to hear that word. Not that you shouldn't have it, but if you don't, how are you going to move on with that? I wanted to also ask, how did that show up in your parenting at all? That love that you never got, those words that were never spoken, no kind words, the opposite.
And if I have to say, that's when I really became monsterous.
Okay.
Because although I thought I knew what love was, because my grandmother loved me, my grandfather loved me, I had aunts and uncles that loved me, but I never knew what a mother's love was, so I couldn't give it to my children.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I can only give them what I knew, and I didn't know anything. So whilst I thought I was loving them, I was actually hurting them, because they didn't learn how to connect. We didn't connect. We communicated, but we didn't have a bond. We didn't have that, oh, you can come lay on my lap and just lay there for no reason and I'll rub your head. Or you can come and hug me and I wouldn't jump or wince from it or tell you to get away from me. There was no bond. So that's how my children, and at the time my children were still young, so I was really messed up, because I didn't want to hold them. Yeah. Because now I thought I was going to be like my mom.
Yes.
And I couldn't love them right because I didn't know how to love them.
Yeah.
So it affected them greatly. Our relationship didn't deteriorate, but it wasn't as strong as it should have been.
Okay. How do you free yourself from that, Michele? Because that is pretty tough.
How did I free myself from that? Honestly, therapy.
Therapy.
I had to go to therapy. I mean, I woke up one day and realized that, oh, something ain't right. Something is so not right. Now, and my story continues because I think my children are a little bit grown now, and we don't communicate at all. Where we used to sit down and have dinner together because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. My children don't even visit me. They don't call me. They ain't coming by. And when they do, they only want something. And I'm like, oh, something is not right. And instead of blaming my children for what was wrong, I blamed myself. And that's how I took myself to therapy. I'm like, I got to talk to somebody before I explode. Yeah. So going to therapy helped me get in touch with me and see my mistakes and where I went wrong and how I'm different, but in a good way. Yes. And then I was able to try my best to communicate or to establish a communication with my children. And that didn't happen until I was, oh my gosh, well into my 40s. So from 23 to 40, for almost 17 years, we lived in a quiet misery. And then one day I was like, I don't want my children to be like me, but I got to change me so that they can see the change. Yes. And then they can change themselves.
Wow. You changed the template that you wanted them to have, and you did something about it. And I really love that you looked inward first and you didn't look outside and said, well, if you did this and this and this, then things would have happened. Michele said something really crucial just then. She said, I went to therapy. I went and got help. And for those who are listening, who haven't yet decided, maybe you're thinking about, maybe you might decide to go to therapy. I know some people, it's a little bit of a scary place for them to be. If you're not there yet, I mean, at Wounds to Scars, we provide so many opportunities for you to, reflect quietly, do some self-help stuff before you make the decision to go to therapy. One such thing is our conference that's coming up on the 29th and the 30th of May. You don't have to travel. You can stay anywhere you are in the world as long as you have internet connection and take part. I'm going to put the link for the conference above the video. Please do not delay and put it off. You can change the legacy that the next generation have by healing you.
Yep.
You literally can.
Yep.
Thank you, Michele. I wanted to segue into something else, and another question I have, because I always said this to people, and sometimes a little bit difficult. When nobody advocates for us, we don't know how to advocate for anybody else, not even ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Advocacy is something that we learn. It's not innate. We weren't born with it. We learn it by watching other people and by experiencing it. And you said that day when Mom said you defeated your purpose and you realized you were never going to hear I love you, you said the distorted acceptance of willful blindness to pedophilia deeds committed against me by her boyfriend. So she didn't
only
say that, she just was willfully blinded by the hurt that you were experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Right, because she wasn't paying attention to me, because at that particular point in time, I had no purpose in her life. So anything that I said went in one ear and out the other, because why should I care about you? You're not helping me. And it was like a unspoken dismissal.
She shut her heart down.
Yes, completely.
And so you went through life for a good chunk of your time saying, I didn't need anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need anyone.
Yep.
I'm okay. I didn't need anyone.
I'm okay. Yep.
I just need myself, my children. I was quick to tell you that promises are lies made to be broken.
Yep.
So don't make me any promises
that you can't keep.
When I was reading it, I imagined this really tough exterior, where
mm-hmm.
you drank and, you presented this image of hardness. That must have served you
mm-hmm.
for a good while.
It did. It served me for over 15 years. Because while people approached me, they didn't come at me. If you can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
They were, because I was still approachable, but 5 minutes into the conversation, if you rubbed me the wrong way, the words that came out of my mouth were sharper than a two-edged sword. And then it was like, okay, so yeah, all right, I'll talk to you later. And later never came, but nobody could believe that at 125 pounds, I was 5'1", because I did grow an inch, but I was 5'1", 125 pounds, and I was tough as nails on the outside. But on the inside, I was soft as a marshmallow. I was soft as a marshmallow, but nobody knew that, because I kept this wall on top of the wall, on top of the fence, on top of the wall, and I built bricks around it, and you never got that close.
Yeah, bricks. Yeah, you protected
mm-hmm.
yourself. You protected that hurt.
Mm-hmm.
As the story progressed, you became a Christian. You immersed yourself in church. And you said, I neglected to protect my children. I become so immersed in church that I neglected to protect my children. And you said, never doubt the viciousness of people who, mm-hmm. for the sake of religion, they can be extremely cruel and unkind. How did religion, or what was that like? Because you said, I prayed. My hope was that God would somehow cleanse his soul and make it all go away, wash away with the blood, So I'm asking this because I know there are many people that are praying, hoping that the thing that they see will go away, or the things that they've experienced will just disappear because they're praying. Did that work? Just praying alone?
Well, you froze a little bit, but I think I know where you're going.
Yeah.
The one thing about an unbiased opinion in therapy is that it doesn't deal with religious sex at all. So there's no denomination in therapy. It's just an unbiased opinion there to help you to find you. So when I spoke of religion, and I finally understood for myself what it was, I realized that religion is just the order. The order in which you pray, the order in which you sacrifice, the order in which you do the things that you do according to the rules set by that denomination. I was never in touch with my spirituality. So when I would pray, I would just think that God was just going to make it all right and it was just going to be all wonderful. And then when he didn't, I got mad at him. But I got mad at the religion. And then I trusted people, and I started to tell people that I thought would pray with me. And they didn't. They talked against me.
Yeah.
And then they treated my children in a particular way. They started isolating and separating my children. And my children became the focal point and the brunt of their jokes and their snide remarks. Oh, no. That's now y'all really making me mad. Now I'm mad for a whole different reason. Not only is this egregious act happening, but you're condoning it and blaming my children for it.
Yeah.
And I'm a part of this.
Yeah.
I can't be a part to this.
Yeah.
I can't live like this anymore. But at the time, religion was my coping mechanism. The church was because people will tell you all the time that if you want to be healed, you want to be whole, go to the place of refuge. Not realizing that humans are there.
Humans are there. Broken humans.
Our humans are there. And not all humans are rightly to be there. So when you go to trust, you need to trust in the spirit of the religion, not the section of the religion, not the rules and the regulations. The rules said that I was supposed to fall on my knees and bear all before God and leave it at the altar. Well, whilst I was on my knees leaving it at the altar, there was some crazy stuff going on behind my back in the back pew. And I was blind to that because I was at the altar. I was doing what I was told to do. And then one day I realized that I had it all wrong. I shouldn't be mad at God. It wasn't God's fault. And God can only change. He can put the inkling to change into a person's heart. But if that person is deemed and determined to be who they are, that's who they shall be. And if they choose not to change, it's not his fault.
That's right.
Why am I blaming God?
That's right. That's right.
That's your fault. That's my fault. That's the next person's fault on how you interpret what you are reading. And I had it all mixed up and wrong.
Yeah, and I really wanted to. And
whilst I was using the church as the coping mechanism,
I really wanted to get that out because it's so important. That's one of the things that I have started doing, training leaders in how to appropriately minister to people who have experienced trauma. Because at the moment, it's not happening, and it's talking behind the back. And we've prayed for 2 weeks and no change, so we're gonna move it, keep it moving. You don't have enough faith, and then there is the people who use it as a coping mechanism, and as feeling that they don't have to seek support, they don't have to do anything else, they don't have to get help. And one of the things that this chapter, and all the books that I've read on healing, people's experiences is you won't get healed if you don't do the work.
Right.
You just have to do the work.
You have to do the work. You have to get up off your knees from praying.
No other way. And that's why we put conferences on, especially ones like the virtual one that you can stay in the comfort of your home and start the work or continue the work, no other way around it. We're going to wrap up shortly, Michele, but I wanted to also talk about self-compassion. Tell us how you learned how to offer yourself that.
Learning self-compassion came with my diagnosis of lupus. And for the first 5 years of my diagnosis, I was just sitting back ready to die. Everything had happened. Everything was going wrong. It just wasn't working right. And now I've developed this disease that is going to kill me as sure as I'm alive.
Yeah.
And then one day, I got tired of being depressed. I got tired of Prozac. I got tired of visits to the hospital. I got tired of all of those things that seemed to be really depressing me. And I said to myself, do you want to live? And I looked at myself in the mirror and I did not like what I saw, but I was willing to change it.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that if I had to change it, I had to change how I saw me. So I became very compassionate about healing me. And if I could heal me, then I would be able to tell somebody else how to heal them, because I would have the experience of knowing. So I know about depression. I know about grief. I know about pain. I know about denial. I know about all of these things. And I know that each one is different for everyone, but the road to recovery, the road to redemption begins with self. And I know me, and you should know you. Yeah. So I became very strong in fixing me. And if I couldn't fix it in me, it was okay. So I really went through the stages of grief when I found out that I had lupus. And one day just woke up and said, I want to take care of me. That means I need to take care of my mind, my body, and my soul. And how do I do that? And I started researching. How do I do this? I began meditating. At one time, I wanted to be a Buddhist. Okay. But the art of meditation, it worked for me. So I found my space to be quiet. I found my space to calm down. I found my space to re-examine and reevaluate me. And once I began to do that, I could see where I was not quite as compassionate with others as I should have been. Uh-huh. So I had to begin to forgive myself for assuming that I knew it all, and forgive myself for knowing nothing at all. Mm. And once I did that, it just went on from there, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And now I just live to a point where I don't question too many things. I just wait to see how they're going to manifest themselves, how much work needs to go into helping that manifestation come. And if it doesn't work the way that I think it should work, I need to see how it is going to work.
Awesome. You know, you said something here that really connected with that. You said, I went to therapy to forgive those who had abused me when I was younger, and the mother who refused to believe me. I went to therapy to come to terms with the impact of the rape. I went to therapy to formulate a plan to finally be there for my daughters when they decide to begin the process of forgiving. Mm-hmm. That's where I saw the compassion for you and for others. You wanted to be available emotionally and to be present, so that when they start their process, you would be there. You'd be able to be there.
Not to ask questions, not to judge, not to give you my opinion, but just to be there. Just to be there. Because I don't know how they, at the time I didn't, we've talked since then, but I didn't know how they interpreted the situation. So it had to be their voice. I couldn't influence them.
Yeah.
I could not be an influence to them because they didn't see it the way I saw it.
Yeah.
It had to be their voice. And I had shut their voice out for long enough. I wanted them to speak. And whenever they are ready to speak, all I need to do is listen.
Yes. But please, if you've got any questions for Michele on Facebook or here in Zoom, please let us know if you have any questions. Just post them here. I wanted to read this again, Michele, before I ask you about what's next, where he says, I cannot go back to re-see all the warning signs that I missed. That's where I heard self-forgiveness. I can't go back and be a better parent. And I thought, wow, we have to learn how to forgive ourselves for the mistakes that we make as parents. I can't go back and take the hurt away. I can't go back and fix my mistakes. And I can't go back and tell all the bystanders that my daughters is telling the truth. You couldn't. You know, you couldn't go back, but you could move forward. And you said, I went to therapy to formulate a plan of how I was going to do that. That takes so much courage and the strength that must have taken to say, I need to go do this. so I can be ready to see now the things that I couldn't see before. And
Exactly.
And we know as people are healing that it becomes difficult sometimes. Sometimes it's tough. Sometimes we have to hear hard things as people are healing. But you made yourself available for that to happen.
Yes.
To be that place for them to heal. Tell us what's next, Michele, because as I was saying, as I read this, I thought, I want to know more. What's happening next, and what's she doing now, and how are they doing? And my mind is twirling with questions. Tell us what's next.
Well, what happened was there's two things that are going on. There's another piece to this story, and I talked about it a few minutes ago where I said that I didn't begin to really be compassionate towards myself and forgive myself until I got my diagnosis. Well, I wrote a book about that. So that little piece chronicles how I went from being ready to die to learning to live. And that's called Learning to Live. Learning to Live. Is it called Learning to Live? Yes, Learning to Live Healthy with Lupus.
Okay.
No, I apologize. That is not the title. Forgive me. Learning to Live Healthy, a lupus survivor's story. Okay. And it's not about the disease. It's about the emotional turmoil. Because at that time is the time that I was going through therapy. So when I said I had to look at myself in the mirror, that was an ugly picture. But then in order to follow up with this story, in November, we have another book coming out. It's called Unchain Me Mama.
Okay.
And it's the forgiveness factor. And in that story, the title of my chapter is Ridding Myself of the Monster.
Okay.
How having a breakdown built me up.
Oh, wow.
And that is actually the continuation to this story, because it tells you about my life with my mom and how I got there and how I got out of the middle of the bed. Now I'm the child sitting in the middle of the bed with the monster hiding under their bed, and how I released myself from that island to become a better daughter.
We'll have to look out for that.
A better daughter. So whilst I was forgiving myself and I'm patiently waiting for my children to work out their process, I had to forgive my mother and rebuild that relationship with the concept of knowing that she would never say, I love you.
Wow.
With the construct of knowing that she would never hug me. With the concept of knowing that she will never understand anything that I went through before now. So I literally had to walk away from the old thoughts of my mom and rebuild a whole new mother-daughter relationship. So while in Unchain My Legacy, I'm talking about my mother-daughter relationship with my daughters. In Unchain Me Mama, the forgiveness factor, I'm talking about being that daughter and learning again to forgive.
One word comes to mind, capacity. It's just like, where did you get the capacity to be able to do all of that, to do your healing, to forgive your mom, to heal that relationship, to wait and to be a conduit for your children for when they start healing? Capacity comes to mind. And again, there's no way we can have all of that if we don't walk our journey of healing.
Yep.
We just will not have capacity. There's a really good question that follows on from that, Michele. Someone says, what did forgiveness for yourself look like? What did that look like, forgiving yourself?
Peace. It looks like an utter peace. When you look at yourself in the mirror and you don't like what you see looking back at you, you don't like the way your eyes look, you don't like the way your hair is styled, you don't like the way your makeup looks, you don't like that, and it's all for carnal reasons. You need to heal, because there's something in you that is making you not like you. But when you can look at yourself in the mirror, no makeup on, hair standing on end, coal in your eyes, black around from lack of sleep because you've been working